Oh dear. Hello, how's everybody? We're gonna do a really fun video live stream today of we're gonna do naming our Etsy shops or coming up with a fun business name. You know, if you're just getting started with Etsy, or maybe you have a shop and you didn't really think it through when you came up with the shop name and branding and everything, and you want to do something different and have a cool business name that you really are in love with, that you're proud of, and you want to try. And oh, I see Facebook is giving me trouble here. I'm just going to try and fix that real quick. There we go. Let's see if it'll let me connect. Let's see. Sorry, guys. All right, let's see if Facebook will work. Yeah, I guess not. But you can catch me on YouTube and on Twitter, so hopefully you can find me there. Maybe I'll just do a quick post to let everyone know. Oh. Shows it's working. Oh, it kicked it off. Okay. Go. YouTube. Okay. Technical difficulties. Somehow Facebook logged me out, so I wasn't able to connect. All right. So if anyone stumbles upon that, they'll find me there. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go through when I'm coming up with like an Etsy shop name, or if I wanted to do a new business idea. And sometimes things just kind of come upon me, and I want to, develop them into something, let alone, maybe not launch, but develop it. And sometimes when you have an idea, you want to kind of just do those first beginning steps of coming up with a business name and then securing those domain names, so that someone doesn't scoop them up from under you, because if not having the .com, it can be kind of annoying, especially if you've spent a long time coming up with a business name and then you find out it's not available. So I'm going to try and get that heartache of that happening out before it even happens. We have the opportunity. So when it's time to think of a new business name or new branding or rebrand, you want to start from scratch, you are allowed to change the name of your Etsy shop, and I've done it. I've completely taken my Etsy shop from one brand and completely done a 180 on it, so it's completely different than the original shop, and done that successfully. And I liked doing that because the first shop I came up with was really not sustainable in the long term, the niche anyway, and I didn't want to have to just start from scratch with a brand new shop as far as like collecting reviews. And I mean, I was going to be selling some of the same products, but the niche was going to be different. So the reviews, I think, were still applicable for what I wanted to do. And so I came up with a new business name. And I want to help you guys do the same thing if you want to do that, or if you're just starting from scratch and have no idea where to begin. So I made a little notepad here of a few things that are the first things I think about when I want to come up with a unique business name. First of all, I look at my own name, because if it's going to be me, that is definitely marketable. If you are an expert at something, if you are highly skilled at something, you're making something handmade, you're an artist, the creations are yours. If you're painting or hand making something or drawing or a digital artist, and it's you, and you're putting your heart and your soul and everything that's you into it, then you should really think about using your name as your business. It could be just your first name. If you have a unique first name, you could do the whole Cher or Beyonce move, or if you have a really great last name that's kind of unique, or even if it isn't, sometimes you might be surprised that your last name may be available as a domain or the two together. If you have a relatively short name, not to say that a long name can't be, sold as a brand. It's just typically easier starting out, shorter web addresses and shorter email addresses and things, simple things like that. But, so I highly recommend looking at your name first. And now if you're creating a shop that's maybe, I'm just trying to start a business, get something going. It's not necessarily like my passion, my heart and soul. It's like I want to just get into building an online business as a side hustle. It's not my creations from my heart, so then maybe you don't want to use your name. But your initials are another thing you can look at. So if you have, first, middle, last name, you can use your initials. You can use any combination of your first name and initials, or tie it in all that way. And then when you kind of are like, well, none of that stuff really works for me, it's just not the lane, the way I want to go. Because, when you're thinking about creating maybe a print-on-demand shop, or you're doing something that's just kind of really niche and obscure, and you want to just appeal to that audience and not necessarily do it as you, think of other things that might apply to that niche or what you're doing. And the next thing I ask is your location. Is it interesting? I think a lot of things on Etsy right now, and they're really promoting, is the local aspect of it. And so if you have a local audience, and just having, let's say, people from other places who are curious about a place, they always find other places they haven't heard of or haven't been as interesting, or as kind of like, ooh, what's going on there, So if you have a cool location that you work out of, town name, city, region, that in where I am, there's mountain regions and there's lakes regions. So there's different names of those places that I could use, the name of the whole valley or river or lake or something that is in your local area. So you can start brainstorming that way. But if, again, that's not relevant to what you're doing or what you're making, then you could look at just taking what you do or make, and using that word and playing off of that, or a series of words. So I'm going to use this example as we go through the steps that I kind of use to come up with names. I'm going to just pretend like I'm making mugs, ceramic mugs from scratch. I have the whole setup and I'm making these mugs. And so I'm trying to come up with a name. And I can't really use my own name for whatever reason. And my location, I'm planning on moving, so I don't want to be tied to a specific location. And so I'm going to just use this last idea of taking what I do or make, or both, and somehow tying that into coming up with a unique and fun business name. So the first thing I do when I'm trying to come up with a business name, I go to my go-to website, which is namemesh.com. And if you guys don't have a notebook and you're listening, you might want to get that out. I will have in the description, in the replay on YouTube, I'll post it on Facebook and Instagram as well. I will have all the links, but if you're watching on Twitter, you'll have to go to one of those other channels to get access to the links. But if you write them down as you watch, you won't have to go back and try and hunt them down. So Namemesh. And what Namemesh does is it kind of does a little play on words for you a little bit, but it also shows you what's available as far as domain names. So it kind of encompasses all of what I'm talking about, of coming up with a creative name using words, and then also checking to see if the domain is available. Because I feel like if you come up with an amazing name, it doesn't matter if it's already taken and you can't, someone else is using it. So domain is one way of checking to see if someone's using it already. It doesn't rule it out, but it's kind of like my first layer I go through, because if the domain's not available, I don't want to get emotionally invested in this name because I don't want to end up either having to spend thousands of dollars to get the domain or never have it and have my customers going to the wrong website and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do here first is they say, type in a couple words, letters, whatever it is, and they'll kind of generate stuff for you. So I'm going to put in handmade mugs and just see what comes up. I click generate and it will open up an ad for me first, close that, and then it takes us to this page with all kinds of stuff. Now in the comments section, it's basically just taking the two words you put together in the generator and telling you if they're available. So handmade-mugs.com is available, which is kind of promising. I mean, that's not going to be the name of my business, but that's kind of interesting. If handmade-mugs.com is available, that might look kind of nice on a business card, to be honest, and have it be the name of my website versus the name of my business. So these are the kinds of things we stumble upon when we do these searches. It's like, oh, well, I wasn't even thinking about getting handmade-mugs.com, but it is available, and if the price is right, then maybe I'll get it. So what I do here is I just kind of hover over and do control click, copy link address, and then I go back to my notepad, and I'm using Milanote here. Oops. Let's see, new note, and I just kind of, handmademugs.com, there we go. Just take that, and that's one of my ideas. And then we go back to Namemesh, and we kind of just look at what else they've come up with. So they do these, this new section, these are going to be domain names with .other, like words that are kind of unique. So if you are doing something really unique and specific, one of these might be kind of fun and memorable. I wouldn't do it with a long word. So this might be interesting to look at mugs dot whatever is available. And then in short, they kind of take some of the words and letters and shorten them and mix them up and mangle them up. And usually you don't get anything, but sometimes something pops up there that makes you think, oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll do another search. Down here, similar, they kind of go to the Thesaurus and use similar words and give you what's available in those kinds of similar words. So homemademugs.com, they say, is available instead of handmade mugs. So that's a very interesting one too. So I'm gonna just grab that. It's so hard to just copy it. They don't want you to, that's why. They want you to buy the domain from them. So I'm gonna just do paste. Oops. Why can't I paste? Oh, it won't let me. Here we go. I'm not an expert at Milanote. It's just my online version of Notepad. So there's another one, homemade mugs, which is kind of cute. And let's see what else we have. You can get kind of creative here. Shiny mugs, crafted mugs, stolen mugs. So it gets fun here. And then here is another fun one. And this is, they take words and letters and mix them up and make kind of different spellings, and handmadugs.com and handoma, so you can get kind of really interesting in there. And then here they mix it up with common, what would be common suffixes, and so you get like handmugsify, handmugser, so you get some things like that. And then there's other ones that are more SEO friendly, and they have like thehandmademugs.com, ahandmademugs, me handmade mugs, and like besthandmademugs.com, so these are all the ones that are available, and you can go really deep in here and try and come up with ideas. And we've already come up with a couple of domains that we might want to consider buying, but we haven't really come up with like a name for the business yet. So I might do is just take off the handmade and just see what they have for just mugs and see if we get anything kind of cool in the mix. And the no fun Mugsily is kind of cute. Sometimes these short names are kind of cool. Let's see, Mugism, Mugsomely, live mugs, up mugs, new mugs. I kind of like Mugsily. It's kind of just fun to say. It doesn't really look that nice, but I think it's kind of fun to say. So I will just put that to my list. Okay, so I'm kind of hitting a roadblock here, not getting a whole lot of ideas. So one of the other things I do is I go to Thesaurus.com and we can type in the word handmade and see if we get some other ideas for synonyms of handmade that we could use with mugs. So homespun, we could try that, homespun mugs. That might be a good name actually. So let's see if that's available. And here we have homespunmugs.com is available. So I'm going to copy that. I think that could be a really good business name. Okay, just going to delete that part of it. There we go. So homespunmugs.com. I like that one. And then what else did we get? Handcrafted, handicraft. So, and then you can click on homespun, we dig in more. We get into other words. Now we have rustic, crude, ordinary, plain, simple, unsophisticated, unrefined, and then depending on the type of brand direction you go to, like if the mugs I make are really rustic and not perfect or whatever, then I could, dig into some of these other words like, maybe something rustic mugs, like homey pastoral mugs, primitive mugs. That might be nice. And then when you kind of get lost, you can add shop to the end or store if you wanted. So I might try primitive mugs and see what we get. And that one is also available. So it seems like there's quite a bit of mug businesses available out there. And what's kind of great about the names that I've been looking at here, they're kind of vague and non-specific, but they do tell you what I do and what I make. And I could easily spin something like primitivemugs.com off into primitive decor or primitive artwork or something, or homespun mugs into homespun blankets, homespun. I could try and find other niches where I could use that kind of same name if I wanted to grow my business and expand. Mugsily would be more like I'm just going to make mugs and that's it, like every kind of mug you could ever think of, and that's the only thing I'm ever going to make. And these other ones, handmade mug and homemade mugs, that's going to be way too broad to even use as a name. I just put those in there as ideas for domains and can see how much they cost, because it might look that would look good on a business card or on a website as your domain name, because then it gives you some sort of authority. So if I'm still hitting a roadblock with the Thesaurus and Namemesh, I have another one that's kind of fun to play around with called Namesmith.io, and it's a random business name generator. So it says here to describe your idea in up to 5 words. And so we're going to say handmade mugs. And then let's see, one other one, I'll say ceramic, and see what we come up with. And what this is going to do is mix up the words, mix up the letters, move some words around, and just give you some kind of fun, silly ideas. And sometimes when you look at fun and silly ideas, you can maybe not take that exact one, but it gives you inspiration for where to go and what direction to take. So I'd love to know in the comments if you guys have done searches for words and come up with some cool ones here. So we got some blends. Here is one of my favorite. Handmade a, handmade moselle. I mean, that's kind of cool. Handmade moselle. That's a really fun play on words. Hand Madeline. And handmade moselle would be a great one for someone that wants to do all kinds of crafting. That would be a fantastic name. I'm not going to use this, so if anyone's actually watching and thinks that's a cool name, that's all yours. Get after it. Handmade moselle for handmade. Let's see, show more. There we go. Off handmade, that made, handmade, Ethan made, ceramical. So ceramical is kind of cool. If I was a man and my name was Michael, and I made mugs or ceramic things, ceramical would be a good one. And then they have rhymes. Drugs, mugs, bugs, mugs, thugs, mugs, mugs, hugs is available, or hugs, mugs. That might be a good one too. Hugs, mugs. If you're gonna make something that's kind of sweet and cute. So you can see I'm getting a bunch of ideas here. And one of the other ones that I like to do, pre-suffixes here. And this is where you start to get the abstract kind of ones. Let's see. Handmade is unmugs. That's kind of good. Mugs it. Mugsio. So you kind of get these words that aren't words, but they sound like words that are familiar to us, so we kind of like them. You see a lot of apps and startup businesses use names like this. Mugsium, some of these are cool. Okay, now, once we've kind of gone through and we've spent, a lot of time deciding what we want to do, I go back and look at my list, and there's usually one or two that kind of jump out at me that stood out to me as like, oh, this was a good name, and I kind of want to go ahead and run with it. And you can use Milanote to kind of order these into your favorites to least favorites, because as we go, your favorite may not be available and may not be a good choice, and you might have to go with your second favorite. That's the possibility. So I would say my favorite probably is homespun mugs. And so I'm going to start with homespun mugs and have that be my business name, is homespun mugs. And so I'm going to proceed into the next steps with that in mind. So my next thing that I do is I go to Namechecker, namecheckr.com, and what this is going to do is just check the social media profiles, the .com, and see if anyone's using this name, to avoid me just using I do this even before I check if the Etsy shop is taken, because with the Etsy shop name you can always add an initial or something at the end, or a number, if someone has the exact same shop name. But it's the other stuff, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, these things you want to make sure they're available before you spend any money on a domain name. So we're going to go with homespun mugs, and you have to enter it as one word like it would be your social media profile. Okay, search, and looking here, this is looking promising. .com's available, which we knew. Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff's available. I'm just going to keep going down, and it's checking some of these others. It says Etsy's available. So this looks really good. I gotta be honest, this does not happen very often. Most of the time when I enter in something, even the most made up word, someone on the internet has found a way to use it. So I'm super excited that Homespun Mugs is available and Pinterest is available. So everything I need is available. But I don't go by this one website because these sometimes are not 100% accurate. And it might be because I use the capital letters. So I would actually do it again with lowercase just to make sure. Okay, it still says. And then I go to another place, and this one's called namechk.com. And this one does the same exact thing as that last website, but it's a different one. So I just like to do these two different checkers just to double confirm before, again, like I said, spend money on domain names, invest time and effort, and really get my heart set on a name. Because if one of the Instagrams isn't available or something, the usernames. So see here, it's saying that Twitter isn't available for that, and everything else is showing up okay. Photo buckets, I don't think a thing anymore. And then some of these other ones are pretty obscure and it wouldn't matter to me. So the only one that came up as a flag for me is the Twitter. So I'm actually going to go to this and see what it is. It says this count doesn't exist. So that's a good sign. That means that it either doesn't exist or it's available, hopefully. And with Twitter, I would be okay with adding a underscore in between if this wasn't available. It's nice to have it all be the same, but sometimes you have to add an underscore or a dash somewhere. Okay, so this is all super promising. I really thought I'd come across more stumbling blocks than this for something so generic as homespun mugs, but okay. Then my next step is to go to Etsy, and I'm going to just type it in as I would if it were a shop name, okay? And I'm going to hit enter. And then it said we couldn't find anything, okay? So that's a good sign. And then I'm going to go ahead to the address bar and do homespunmugs.etsy.com. And it says there's no page. So as far as I can tell, this Etsy shop name is available and there's no one with that shop name. So this is all fantastic. I'm so happy this is all working out. But there's still roadblocks. We're making our way slowly down the chain of possibilities of this name being one that we can use, but we have to tread lightly because there's a few more things that we have to check. The next thing I do is I go to Google and I just type in my name with the quotations around it so we get as close to an exact match as we can. And the first thing that pops up is eBay and Pinterest, which gives me a good sign that no one's using this name. And Amazon's coming up and just some random websites. So this is really promising that there's no business with homespun mugs in their name. Even if it wasn't an exact match, if it was some other business using homespun mugs in their name, it could be a problem. So it's good to just kind of do that to make sure. And then the next thing I do is I hit up the US Patent and Trademark Office just to do a quick trademark database search. So it's uspto.gov/trademarks/search. All you have to do is search trademark database on Google and it'll come right up. It's also called TESS, TESS. And when you get to this page, you just click search our trademark database. And all this is doing is checking to see if the phrase homespun mugs is pretty much owned by anybody and off limits. So we do a basic word mark search, and we make sure all the stuff's the plural or singular is checked, live or dead's checked, and then we do homespun mugs. And we want to search all these terms, because if something comes up homespun or something comes up mugs, I want to know so I can avoid that in any of my marketing. Even if it's not an exact match, I don't want to be coming close to someone else's trademark. And then we do submit query, and here we go. This is exactly what we want to see. No records were found for your query. So this is really turning out so much better than I thought it could. I got my first choice of name, and it's all clear. The last thing you can do, and this is if you are looking to actually become a business and have your business registered with your state, which I highly recommend, because if you're going to take your Etsy shop seriously and grow it beyond just being a hobby or just something that you do from time to time, but you want to invest in it full time and put all your efforts to it, you want to register your business with the state. And the way to do that is to reach out to your Secretary of State in most cases. And I just found this generic registered agent had all the information for all the Secretaries of State in the United States. So you can pick any state, and it'll take you to where you need to be. And just say, for example, in Alabama, how you do a business name search. So this is just a check to make sure no one's using my business name in Alabama and it's registered in Alabama, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And then that would be a problem, because they don't want to have businesses confused on a state level. So if this person exists and they just have zero online presence whatsoever, it could still be a problem if I want to be a local business someday, either having a storefront or selling at local fairs as a business. So I would go to the website they say to go to, and every state is going to be different. This is all on a state level, and these websites of the Secretary of State will be very helpful in walking you through what you need and what you need to do to become a business or LLC in your state. So every state's different on that front, so you need to go to your state Secretary of State site, and I will put a link to this in the replay of the video, so if you want to find the one that they recommend for your state, you can do that, and you'll get something like this, a business entity search by entity name, okay? And we can just type in homespun mugs, and we can to all records, place of formation. They have every county here, so we'll just check all the counties. City doesn't matter, and just search all records, and we click search. No matches found, and I'm not surprised there. So that's just another way of doing, like, okay, another final check that everything's good with this business name, and then I can move forward. So everything went really quick and smoothly for me for this mug name, a mug business name, and I'm really happy about that. So the last thing that we do is I put the link in the comments, and we go to whutsy.com/domains, and what that's going to do is bring you to the best discounts that are going on right now at Namecheap, which is the domain host I use personally, and I like them because, one, they are probably the lowest prices for domains, and when it comes to the work you have to do with domains, they have it very simplified, and if you have a basic understanding of how to work with domains and the code and everything that goes with them, then you can use Namecheap and be very comfortable. There are some other domain hosts out there that are very confusing, and it's almost like they make it purposefully confusing, and I don't like using those. And you have to pay more for the domain, so there's no reason not to get the best price, especially if you are doing a Etsy shop and you want to have a domain name for your shop separate from Etsy, or if you want it to point to Etsy. Now, Etsy does, with their Etsy Plus program, have a free domain for a year with Hover, and I've done that as well, but I have a mark on my calendar to go off when that expires, and then I will move it over to Namecheap because the renewal will be a lot cheaper. So anyway, once you get here, you can check out what they've got for sales going on and find one that's works for you. And I like the get a 99-cent domain. That sounds really good to me. So we just click on that, and then we do our search. So my domain name was Homespun Mugs, and here they do what they call beast mode, and they will try and sell you, of course, other domains that have to do with the original one that you have. Okay, and here we go, homespunmugs.com. And it's part of their sale, and they have it for $7.98 for the first year, and their regular price would be $8.88. So honestly, I would not be upset with paying the regular price and being able to get $1 off. I will take it. Then they have some other funky ones I'm not really interested in. I just always like to take a look and see if they come up with something different, and there's really nothing that makes sense. So I would just do add to cart. And if there's any other domains that you wanted to get, like when we were looking at our list of available domains from Namemesh, do I want to get the homemademugs.com? I could see how much that is. Let's see how much homemademugs.com is. Let's see, where's Namecheap? Here it is. Okay, so we just go back up to the search bar and we do homemade mugs. Okay, and here we go, homemademugs.com is also on sale for $7.98. So I'm going to get that one as well. And just so you know, if you are watching this and you really like these names, I am not buying these. I'm just going to walk you through the process so you know what to do when you check out. But I'm not going to buy that. Now they have, let's go to view items and go to the checkout and see what we can do here. Okay, so here we are at the checkout, and this is for 1 year, and we want to make sure auto renew is checked on these, the ones that we want to have as our domain. If this is just a pop-up shop and you're making the website and then you're going to let it die after a year, then that's one thing. But in general, you want to make sure your domains renew. You can always take the renew off, but if you don't have it set and then a year goes by and you're on vacation and your website's down and you can't get into there's a lot of scenarios where this would be bad. The next thing I love about Namecheap is they have the domain privacy for free. Most of the time when I make a purchase of a domain through them, they have this free forever, and you want to have that enabled and auto renew. And all that's doing is protecting your private information that is attached to your domain to be shared with third parties. Premium DNS is not important, and depending on what you need. So when you're first buying your domain, you do not need to add this to the cart. This is just an upsell. Of course, if you're an exception and you know you need this for whatever reason, building your website out immediately, then you can enable it, but you can always add that on later. And then they always try and do these upsells anytime you buy a domain anywhere. Web hosting, they're going to try and get you to build a website on their platform. For the most part, you don't want to do that. SSL, depending on what you're using. If you're using WordPress, you may need to do this. If you're using sites like Squarespace, Wix, etc., you do not need SSL. They include that in the hosting. So that's another thing that you can wait on until you're building your website. They have a VPN free trial, WordPress hosting. I wouldn't add this to the cart now because they have lots of different plans, and you'd have to look to see what plan you need before you just buy the $15 plan, which is expensive. That's an expensive WordPress plan, and I know they have cheaper ones. So I wouldn't do that. And then professional email, you get a free trial for a year and then renews for $34, so I would not check that. If you want to get email, it's much easier to just use Gmail to manage all your email needs. Just keeps the flow a lot easier because I think most of us are familiar with how Gmail works in that platform. Okay, so once I decide I don't want anything else in the cart, I go to checkout, and then you can enter in all your information. So you can see they make it very easy to get these domains. I have them for a year for only $16.32. I have these 2 really righteous domains, so I'm excited. And if I was actually making handmade mugs and starting an Etsy shop, I think Homespun Mugs is a cool Etsy shop name and would be really, really fun to use. So if you are watching this and you're come up with a cool name and you're ready to launch your Etsy shop, I want to send you to whutsy.com/checklist. And this is a special thing. You can get my freebie checklist. Start an Etsy shop today. You can download it. You don't need to give me your email or anything like that. You just click the download the freebie button here, and I'll download the checklist, and you get to have my mini free version of my complete checklist, which I'm currently building. But this just gives you all the things that you want to have done before you start your Etsy shop, and it walks you through everything you're going to need when you set up shop, and then when you've built it and you're ready to grow. So, and then all kinds of bonus resources for you if you need any tips and tricks. This thing's loaded. So I really recommend you go to whutsy.com/checklist and grab this before you start your Etsy shop, okay? After you get your name, before you start your Etsy shop. All right, so I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to read the comments and see what you guys came up with, business names and domains, and share your Etsy shops. I want to know what you've done. All right, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you tomorrow.